Welcome back, fellow breeders. Today we are going to have one of those deep, technical, and above all, honest conversations that truly make us grow as producers. In the world of poultry farming, there is a question that is constantly repeated in the comments, in the forums, and during the visits I make to the barns. Can you fix a hybrid? If you have an extraordinary hen, one of those high-performance egg-laying machines, or a rooster with an enviable physical structure, but you know it is a product of a commercial cross, it is natural for doubt to strike you. What if I cross her back with the sire? What if I do a back cross to fix those genetics so I don't have to spend money on new stock again? Today we are going to dismantle that illusion with the technical truth in hand. We are going to analyze why trying to fix a hybrid through back crossing the F1 with the sire is, in the vast majority of cases, one of the most inefficient and costly decisions you can make on your farm. I want you to get ready, because today we are going to separate the romantic hobby from professional production. What I am going to explain to you today will not only save you years of frustration, but it will also protect your most sacred investment, your time and your feed. To start, we must understand what that animal you have in the coop really is. That F1 hybrid is not an accident of nature or a random cross made by a neighbor. It is the final result of an extremely complex chain of biological engineering. Large poultry genetics companies have stabilized pure lines for decades, lines A, B, C, and D, so that, when crossed, they produce what we know as heterosis or hybrid vigor. It is a phenomenon where the offspring outperform the parental stock in productivity, health, and efficiency. But here is the detail. That hybrid vigor is a momentary spark. It is a genetic balance that is designed to manifest in that generation, and nothing more. It is like a high-precision Swiss watch. It works perfectly as long as all the pieces are in place, but if you try to take it apart to make a copy with used parts, the watch will simply stop telling the exact time. When you decide to take a daughter of that cross, an F1 female, and cross her back with the sire to recover the blood, you are trying to perform a maneuver of genetic alchemy. Many breeders believe that genetics is cumulative, as if we were mixing water with sugar. They think that if they put in more sugar, more of the sire's blood, the mixture will be sweeter. But poultry biology is governed by Mendel's laws, and this is where reality hits hard. The moment you do that back cross, you cause what we technically call character segregation. Those genes that were organized to give you a superproducer get completely disordered. In that new progeny, you are not going to get copies of the winning dam. What you are going to get is a biological lottery. You will see traits appearing that were hidden, recessive genes that bring with them bone weakness, a drop in the egg-laying rate, brittle plumage, and a deficient immune response. This is where backcrossing becomes an inbreeding trap that, if not managed with laboratory-level genealogical control, will end up ruining the vitality of your entire flock. Now, let's talk about a concept that every breeder of turkeys or chickens must master: the sire factor. Even though we are on an ornamental bird channel, the logic is the same as what is applied to the great meat turkey. The stallion, the sire, is the one who provides the structure and the growth potential. If you use a male that is already a hybrid, or try to fix traits by crossing close relatives without a base of purity, you are multiplying errors. Just like in turkeys, where a poor tom can ruin the weight of an entire hatch. In chickens, poor management of backcrossing ruins feed conversion. And this is where I want you to pay close attention, because we are going to talk about money. The bag of feed is, today, the most expensive input of our activity. A mediocre bird, the product of a failed backcross, consumes the exact same amount of protein, calcium, and energy as an elite bird. However, its ability to transform that feed into eggs or meat is 30% or 40% lower. Multiply that waste by 50 birds for 365 days a year. The result is that you are burning money because you didn't want to invest in genetic renewal. The breeder who says they save by making their own hybrid crosses is actually paying for the most expensive genetics in the world through the inefficiency of their feeders. Imagine for a moment the financial scenario. If an elite bird consumes 4 ounces of feed daily and gives you a 2.3-ounce egg consistently, its return on investment is clear. But if a fixed bird consumes those same 4 ounces and only lays 3 eggs a week, or thin-shelled eggs, or simply stops laying at 10 months of age, the cost of that egg doubles. Genetics is the filter that decides how much of your money turns into product and how much goes directly to waste. I want to be very emphatic on one point so you don't feel that this video contradicts what we have talked about regarding resilience in the field. Backcrossing is a tool, yes, but it is a survival tool. If you live in a region or in a country where borders are closed, where imports of pure lines such as Rhode Island Red, Australorp, or Light Sussex do not arrive, then backcrossing is your only path. It is your life raft so you don't end up with nothing. In that context, doing a cross of the F1 with the sire is an act of bravery to preserve the little you have. It is better to have a bird that produces at 60% than to have no bird at all. But let's not deceive ourselves, that is not genetic improvement, that is emergency maintenance. But fellow breeder, if you have access to quality genetics, if you can buy a new sire, if you can acquire pullets from certified lines, or if you can import hatching eggs from prestigious breeders, then backcrossing is business negligence. You cannot expect to compete in a modern market using subsistence methods. The genetic sovereignty of your farm is not achieved by closing the doors and crossing the same animals over and over again. It is achieved by knowing when to inject new blood to keep vigor and productivity at the top. Let's dive deeper into what happens at the cellular level. When you cross very close relatives repeatedly, homozygosity increases. This means the genes become identical. If those genes are good, perfect. But the problem is that all living beings carry lethal or defective genes that are normally turned off because there is a healthy dominant gene covering them. When backcrossing, you turn on those errors. You start to see chicks with crossed beaks, partial blindness, or, most commonly, a total lack of will to live. They are chicks that don't run to the feeder, that stay huddled in the corner. That, my friend, is inbreeding depression destroying your work from the inside. Many breeders are deceived by what they see in the F2, the second generation. Sometimes, by pure chance, an imposing chick comes out, a rooster that looks like a show-quality stud, and the breeder gets excited and says, "I did it, I fixed the hybrid." But what he doesn't see is that this individual is a statistical anomaly. His offspring will be mediocre again because his genetic base is still unstable. You are building a skyscraper on quicksand. On the other hand, when you work with pure breeds like the Black Australorp, that bird has decades of selection that guarantee its progeny will be just like her. That is called stable hereditary transmission, and it is the only thing that allows you to plan your business a year ahead. Let's talk about the breeder's psychology. Sometimes we get attached to a bird because it was the first one that gave us an incredible result. The feeling is valid, but feeling doesn't pay the farm's bills. If that extraordinary hen is a hybrid, enjoy her, take advantage of every egg she lays, but don't try to reincarnate her through family crosses. Accept her for what she is, a high-performance product with a genetic expiration date. The true art of breeding is knowing when to retire a specimen and bring in new blood that refreshes the group's vitality. True genetic sovereignty is having control over the process, not isolation from the process. If you breed pure Rhode Island Reds, you have the power. You can produce your own commercial crosses to sell laying pullets to your neighbors, and those pullets will be excellent because they come from a pure base. But if your parental stock is already a mix, your offspring will be an unknown. The market values uniformity. If a customer buys 100 chicks from you, they expect all 100 to grow at the same rate. Uniformity is only given by genetic purity or controlled F1 hybrids. Look at the example of the great turkey producers. They never dream of leaving a meat tom for reproduction. They know that this tom was designed to weigh 40 pounds in record time, not to be a fertile and long-lived sire. In ornamental and laying hens, we must apply the same logic. If a bird was designed to lay eggs, her body is under constant physiological stress. Asking her to also be a perfect genetic dam for the next generations is asking too much of biology. Investing in an improvement sire is the quantum leap your farm needs. Imagine you bring in a rooster from a show line or proven high productivity. That single individual is going to put his mark on 50% of the genetic load of all the chicks born in your coop that season. It is a massive lever for change. Comparing that with the effort of doing individual backcrosses for 3 years is like comparing a tractor with a hand hoe. Both serve to work the land, but one makes you rich and the other only makes you tired. Fellow breeder, I want you to analyze your flock today with the eyes of an auditor. Look at your birds and ask yourself how many of these birds are here because of their real productivity, and how many are here because of an experiment that never finishes bearing fruit. If you have more birds on trial than birds producing, you have a genetic management problem. Backcrossing should be the exception, a scientific curiosity you do in a separate cage, but the bulk of your farm should run on pure and proven bloodlines. Another vital point is biosecurity linked to genetics. A bird with real genetic vigor has a superior immune system. This means it spends less energy fighting environmental diseases and more energy producing. Birds produced by severe inbreeding due to poorly managed backcrosses are magnets for viruses and bacteria. In the end, you end up spending on antibiotics and vitamins what you supposedly saved by not buying a new specimen. Cheap is expensive, and in poultry farming that maxim is fulfilled with mathematical precision. If you manage breeds like the Light Sussex or the Plymouth Rock, you have a historical treasure in your hands. These breeds were created to be balanced. By keeping them pure, you ensure that maternal instinct, shell quality, and climate resistance stay intact. When you introduce the instability of a hybrid into that system, you corrupt years of selective work. Be a guardian of the breed, not a directionless blood mixer. Professional poultry farming is a long-distance race. It is not won by who produces the rarest chick this month, but by who maintains a productive and healthy farm for 10 years in a row. And the only way to achieve that consistency is through scheduled renewal. Schedule your sire purchases, schedule the entry of new lines of dams, make new blood flow in your barns like clean water flows in the drinkers. Genetic stagnation is the beginning of the end for any hatchery. Let's talk about the F3 and the F4, because there are breeders who insist. If the F2 is already a lottery, the F3 is a disaster waiting to happen. By the time you get to the fourth generation of a back-crossed hybrid, you have animals that no longer have any relationship with the productivity of the original ancestor. You have created a yard breed that consumes a lot and gives little. It is there where the breeder gets disappointed and says, "Chickens are no longer a business." But the problem is not the chickens, it is the genetic management that led them to degradation. Don't be fooled by pretty terms. Fixing the trait sounds very professional, but to fix a trait without destroying vitality requires thousands of specimens and deep statistical knowledge. On a medium-sized farm, what we are doing is simply closing the blood. And closing the blood is, in the long run, closing the door on profitability. Open your doors to excellence. Look for that stud that makes you proud to show to your colleagues. Look for that line of hens that fills your egg flats every morning without fail. Excellence is not an act, it is a habit of selection. Every time you decide not to use a mediocre bird for breeding, you are taking a step towards success. Every time you decide to invest in a superior quality specimen, you are securing your family's future. Because at the end of the day, this farm is the support of your dreams. Don't build your dreams on the basis of genetics fixed with patches. Build them on the solid rock of purity and vigor. Value your effort. Value those hours you spend cleaning, feeding, and caring for your birds. That effort deserves to be rewarded with the best possible results. And the best results only come from the best birds. Stop fighting against Mendel's laws and start using them in your favor. Genetics is your most powerful ally if you respect it, but it is your harshest judge if you try to cheat it. Fellow breeder, I hope this deep analysis serves as a compass on your poultry path. I know that sometimes the path of renewal seems more difficult because of the initial investment, but I promise you it is the only path that leads to true financial freedom in the field. Don't settle for what you have if you know it can be better. Aim for the top, aim for perfection, and above all, aim for efficiency. Take the time to review your records today. Identify which birds are the engine of your farm and which are just passengers consuming your fuel. Make the brave decisions that an elite producer must make. Success doesn't happen by luck, it happens by design. And the design of your success starts with the genetic selection you make today in your barn. I trust your judgment and your passion. You have the tools, you have the knowledge, and now you have the technical clarity to not fall into the trap of infinite backcrossing. Turn your farm into a model of poultry excellence, into a place where quality is the norm and not the exception. The world needs professional breeders like you, who understand that the quality of the final product starts in the purity of the blood. Keep working with that dedication that characterizes you, but do it with the intelligence of someone who knows that genetics is the best-kept secret of great producers. May your barns be filled with vigor, may your nests be filled with perfect eggs, and may your pocket be filled with the fruits of impeccable management. Poultry farming is the noblest business in the world when it is done with respect for science and love for animals. Thank you for allowing me once again into your farm through this video. My commitment is always to give you the information that makes you win, the information that makes you grow, and the information that keeps you at the forefront of this exciting world of ornamental birds. Don't stop, keep learning, keep investing in yourself and your birds. To your success, fellow breeder. See you in the next one.